This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC registered investment advisor.
Welcome to Journeys with Joni. My name is Joni Rametta, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Mark Clark. Join us as we travel on this journey together. Good morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm awesome, Joni. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks.
We're just having a grand time.
It's great.
Aren't we? Fall is in the air, except for here in Florida.
Yeah, I was going to say, where have you been?
Seattle.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yes. You go up north and it's cold. Couple weeks last month I was in Minnesota and it was cold there. So
right.
I just every time I'm out of town up north I stand outside and try to flap my arms and wave it south so we can have some relief down here.
We appreciate that.
It doesn't work though.
No, it doesn't work. It does not work, but it will eventually.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Well, today we're going to talk about I think our topic, well, last week we were talking about the holes in the buckets.
Right.
And, the things that we let sort of slip by. Mm. And it's October, so we're talking about taxes because the end of the year is just a couple of months away.
It is.
And, we truly believe that if we can do a little bit of planning, we can be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to taxes.
Yeah, I've always been amazed that, people think April is that's the tax month.
Well, that's just when we pay the taxes and file.
No, that's when the reckoning or your tax return, which is really what a tax return is. It's a reconciliation of what you did in the past, and you oftentimes don't have a lot of opportunity to make a edit, an amendment, a adjustment, whatever you want to call it, impact on your tax return because you're taking a historic look, and so
because the year's gone.
It is gone.
Yeah.
So that's why we're talking about taxes for the next couple of weeks, right?
Talk about taxes and some of the things that we can do. I know it's not a great subject, but it's a reality. And I think that if we talk about it a little bit and, if we can give people ideas or things to think about, that maybe they can, change their, what they're doing between now and the end of the year, that, it'll make a difference.
Right. And I think the biggest thing that I really take away from the tax planning mindset is when you get a dollar, no matter how you get it, you get it in payroll, you get 100 pennies in the dollar. And the goal is how much of it can you keep and use on the things that you want to direct it toward. Mm-hmm. That's the big thing on tax planning in my mind.
Right. Because some of it's going to go to the government.
Well, yeah, everybody's got to pay their fair share.
You got to pay a fair share.
And then, that opens the can of worms.
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
What is my fair share?
Right.
Oh, yes, I don't want to go there either.
No.
I'm tracking with you. But at least, our part, we're going to be accountable for what we have. Not that the government's accountable for what they spend the money on. But, again, we're not going there. But can I keep, how many of those 100 pennies can I keep in direction or control in my family without sending them to the government?
Right. And taxes, there are tax rules.
Right.
So we all need to understand that there's rules and that you follow the rules. But the rules also allow you to have things that you're not covered in. So it's like with anything else. If you know what the rules are, then you can play the game.
Right.
So, when you're talking about sports, it's football season. So there's rules in football.
Right.
You know what the rules are. Sometimes you can go around the rules. Sometimes you can bend the rules. Sometimes you can just, if you know what the rule is, then you know not to do something. You can do something else in its place.
Right. And maybe the rule has some, it's football season. And this is a good one. One of those things, and I'm sure people can relate to this as they're listening to us. It happens to me all the time. You go, oh, I didn't know that. So here's my example. The offensive football player goes out of bounds. He cannot be the first person to touch the ball when he comes back in bounds. So he can't run out of bounds, run back in, and catch a pass. Somebody else has got to touch the ball. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that rule existed. Well, just because I didn't know it didn't mean that rule wasn't in play. And I think oftentimes when it comes to taxes, a lot of assumptions are made, or a lot of things are looked at from a standpoint of, well, it's just the way it always has been, therefore it always will be this way, and I'm just, que sera, sera, and I keep on marching down the road. And the next thing you know, you're not playing by all the rules that are available to you.
Right. And this is a great time of year to tweak some of those things that you're doing. We've talked about it before on other shows about, tweaking, your deductions to your 401k. How many dependents do you have? I mean, if you had a baby, have you, a child moved out of the house, this is something that needs to be changed on your W-2 form.
Right.
It's a perfect time to be checking all that kind of stuff out.
Yeah, and there's, the older we get, and I'm not getting any older, the older we get, we have other opportunities. Mm-hmm. When you turn 50, you have the opportunity to put a little more, it's called a catch-up provision. You can, participate in a little more cabbage in the pot of your qualified plans or your IRAs. We'll talk about that as we, march along. But nonetheless, there are things that if you're not aware of, they're going to have an impact on you. And there are things that, oftentimes taking a checkup, just, and this is what we do. We had a gentleman in a couple weeks ago, and that's exactly what his conversation was. In fact, he moved here from another country, and his whole conversation was around doing a checkup of what is available to me. I want to know what all the rules are, and I know oftentimes when I go to a tax person, that tax person is, somebody that is going to be reactive. I want to be proactive. Right. And I think that's probably one of the number one things that we help people do. Absolutely.
And it's, it's a free consultation. We'll sit down and chit chat about the things that you have done, the things that you have available. And sometimes, having somebody else listen to what you're doing and listening to what kind of a business you have. If you, if you're a small business owner, you do something out of your house. If you're working for an employer, some of those little comments that you make may tweak somebody else to say, oh, what about this and what about that?
Yeah, in my notes, as we were talking about what we were going to talk about on the show today, tax planning. Too many times, as we are discussing in today's show, tax planning is reactive, and we want to be proactive with the tax planning. And there's no need to be reactive. There's an opportunity where you have the ability to impact this year before it's over what your finances are on the tax front.
Right. So if you're interested in doing a little bit of planning between now and the end of the year, you could give us a call. We'd love to have a strategy session with you. We can talk about some of the things that are going on. And then, of course, we don't give tax advice. So we would be calling, putting it in play with your accountant or your CPA.
Right. We're working on a CPA to join us 1 week this month. So
yeah, hopefully coming up in the next couple of weeks, we will have one on talking about some of the new stuff going on and some of the things we all need to be aware of.
Absolutely.
Journeys with Joni, that's JONI.com, is where you can find previous shows. Our emails, our phone number is 941-361-1484. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. Just before the break, Mark and I were talking about taxes, taking this time in October to tweak what you're doing maybe at work or with your withholdings, with your retirement plans, just sort of taking a time out to take a look at what we're doing to see if there isn't something that we aren't doing or that we could do a little bit better that would help us with taxes come April of next year. Because if we don't get it done now, it won't matter in April of next year.
No, it sure won't. And before the break, we were talking about, using the rules to the fullest. And when the game's over,
it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, there's only one carryover that I really know about. And again, we're not CPAs, we're not giving tax advice, but the one thing I know you can do is make a contribution to your IRA up until the date you file your tax return.
Right.
So if you file your tax return on February 10th, that's the last day that you have to, make a contribution to your IRA and count it for the previous year. Mm-hmm. So, but short of that, I don't really know too many things that after that clock ticks and you have the New Year's party, watching the ball drop, that's kind of the dividing line of what I've done to now making and taking an account and sending in what I have done to the government. You don't have any opportunity to really modify too many things other than, if you make a charitable contribution, that's got to be done in the calendar year. You can't go, oh yeah, I owe a bunch of money, I want to give some away for last year. It doesn't work.
That's right.
So knowing the rules and using them to the fullest is a key. Well,
and if you don't know, then yeah. That's one of our little sayings too. I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, I tried that once with a gentleman with a little blue light on top of his car behind me. I didn't know what the speed limit was, officer, and his comment was, well, "That's not my fault."
That's right.
It's still my responsibility to know. And last time I checked, the Internal Revenue Service, or shall I say, the Department of Treasury, is not in the habit of going, hey, you forgot to use this deduction. You sent us too much. Here you go. They will gladly take your money, mm-hmm. and and they won't apply all the rules, that you have available to you. They're not, revenue friendly to your pocket. They're revenue friendly to their pocket. So.
Right. And I think a lot of times too, as we're planning things, getting things together towards the end of the year, because some people who are planners. Like to start getting things ready, in November, December to give to their tax person right after the first of the year, so they can be one of the first ones to file.
Right.
But are you having the conversation with your CPA? Are you having the conversation with your accountant? What changed this year? Did you buy a car? Did you do something different this year than you've done in the past that maybe could be used as a benefit?
Right.
Adopt a child. Open your own business. Are you working out of your house now? Have you incorporated if you've worked out of your house?
Right.
What kind of a business is it? Are you taking advantage of all of the things that are allowed for a business that's operating out of the house? Or if it's a business that you're operating, that you've got actual rental properties that you're, have an office away from the house. There's a lot of deductions that are available for business owners, right, that aren't available for individuals. So are you taking advantage of all those? Do you have all those things titled properly? Is the cell phone bill in the name of the business? Is the, things like that. And, if you expect somebody to look at all your receipts and figure that out, that might be a little bit of a high expectation.
Right. And on top of it, I think if you, staying in the frame of thought that you're in right there, if you're expecting the person you've handed the shoebox full of stuff to, in the heat of the battle, if you will,
right.
The clock's ticking on the accountants. And oftentimes I think it's unfair to say, well, why didn't they tell me about it? Well, you and the other 800 people that have now dumped all their boxes of receipts on their desk and expecting them to have, your tax return done on time. That's not the best time to do the planning. The planning time is now, and that's a key. And you mentioned entities. Entities, in our opinion, business entities, a corporation, whether it's an S corp, a C corp, or an LLC, those are all tax efficient entities that you can utilize and completely playing by the rules. Again, we're not giving tax advice, but those are things that are available to you based on your circumstances that could really have an impact on your tax cash flow. And, if you're saying, well, I'm an employee somewhere, that doesn't mean you can't have a business that is a side business. That's more than just a hobby. It's a side business. Oftentimes the spouses have an income source that would be better off in a corporation potentially than just taking the cash as ordinary income and reporting it. So there's all kind of opportunities that you have to really do some tweaking legally and using the rules to the fullest. The other thing I thought of, Joni, while you were talking earlier, is not only what's changed in your life, but what's changed in the tax code.
Oh, absolutely, because they change all the time.
They sure do.
It's one of the reasons I'm not a CPA.
Amongst other, yeah. I mean, God bless our CPAs, really. That's a fact. And they spend hours going to continuing education to learn what has changed from last year to this year.
Right.
So, and I'm going to stay away from that taboo topic, but
Well, and the tax code's complicated.
Sure
I mean,
it is.
none of this stuff is easy. I mean, just look at the 1040 form. I mean, at some point it goes over, a lot of our heads. I mean,
Right.
I don't do my own taxes. You don't do your own
no,
taxes.
I sure don't.
So, it's not that it's right or wrong to do your own or not do your own, but if you have somebody available to help you, making sure that you're doing the best thing that you can.
Right.
It's like with anything else that you do. You send your kids to the best school. You look at the best colleges. You're always trying to do the best. Are you doing the best when it comes to your taxes? Are you doing the best when it comes to planning and the things that you're doing to create income? Are they housed,
Right.
in the right kind of a environment to take advantage of all the things that are out there for us to take advantage of? Because it's like coupons. If you're not using the coupons,
Right.
they're out there for you to take advantage of. You have a choice. You don't have to use them. But if you use them, you can potentially save money that you can use someplace else.
Absolutely. You're opening a can of worms on those coupons and tax planning. And I know we're coming up almost up against a break. And we'll talk about this when I come back. But, the coupon and the tax planning, there's a correlation there. And, we'll talk about it when we come back. But I just think that tax planning is one of the most powerful ways, and we've talked about this the last few shows, to find holes in your bucket that you can stop the money from dripping out and control or be a good steward, much better steward in your pocket than Washington, D.C. Be a better steward of what you've been entrusted with. And just look, if we could take money from Washington and give it to a charitable entity or ministry that you have a passion for, wouldn't that $1 diverted in another way be better than where it's going today?
I think most people would agree with that.
Amen.
I mean, it's our money. So let's be proud of what we do with it, and let's do the things that we want to do with it. Journeys with Joni. We'll be right back.
Do you know what you own and why you own it? Join us for our next workshop to learn about investing with clarity by calling 941-361-1484 to reserve your seat today. Joni and Mark look forward to discussing the philosophy, strategy, flexibility, and transparency, the 4 pillars of investing, with NEPSIS Advisor Services. Call today, 941-361-1484. That's 941-361-1484.
Welcome back to Journeys with Joni. Just before the break, Mark and I were talking about taxes
and coupons.
and the rules and the coupons.
I'm jumping the gun. I want to
I
get
know.
to the coupon.
You as soon as I said the word coupon, his eyes lit up. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, here is here's the correlation. If you've been listening to the show, my wife and I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids. And we have 3 daughters who are very passionate about their families. I mean, we're all passionate about our families, but in today's environment, it's really difficult for young couples to survive on one income. It's just tough. It's really, really tough. And so 2 of my daughters that are married have really gotten into couponing. And when at first, they make a mess all over the dining room table.
Every Sunday afternoon,
yep. There's just stuff everywhere. And, I've jokingly wanted to go get a fan and turn on the fan, but I think
that would be awful.
They would throw me in the pool. It would be awful, but that's just
really mean.
It's just a devious side of me.
Yeah.
If that's the worst thing I ever do, forgive me. Sorry, Lord, I'll repent later. But, and I'm thinking, man, this is a real pain in the neck, all this work that you're doing. But then all of a sudden, my daughter sent me this receipt, and she said, Dad, check this out. And she went to a grocery store, which will be unnamed, and basically she saved $97 on a grocery bill of about $120. That's right, $97 on a grocery bill of $120. So she walked out with $120 worth of goodies, and she basically paid, $23.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about tax planning, and my challenge to folks is don't just focus on the coupon, focus on the tax planning here. In order for her to pay $120 for the groceries that she was going to get at almost said the grocery store name, I don't want to do that, But at any grocery store, at any store whatsoever, if you have to produce $120, you got to make the $120 plus the tax bracket that you're in. Mm-hmm. Let's just say that young people are in a 10% or 12% tax bracket, 10% to make it easy. She would have to make $132 just to walk home with $120 worth of groceries.
I even can do that math.
Thank you very much. But take it to the next level. She just paid $23 for groceries that had a value of $120. So she would only have to pay that $27. She was really going to have to make around $30, rounded off, to get that $120 worth of groceries. That's tax-free money. Mm-hmm. There's nothing on the 1040. There's no way to report that, at least today. But if I talk a lot about this, I'm sure the IRS or the Department of Treasury will figure something out to start taxing us on coupons. But there's no way that you can really do a calculation on the value of that to the family. So if you do that on a year-over-year or week-over-week basis, and you start adding up, if she got $100 worth of groceries every week like that for free, if you will, that's like making $400 plus the taxes. That's $440 in
a month.
A month
right.
That you'd have to make in gross income to get that value. And then the next component in this, and I'm staying in the tax planning mindset, is the higher your tax bracket, the more valuable that coupon becomes.
Correct.
So if you're in a mindset of I make too much money to coupon, I don't need it, do the math. It's incredible. So if you're up in that 30% tax bracket or higher, do the math on that. And it's very powerful. And these are the holes in our buckets, not just focusing on the coupons, but focusing on tax planning. And, you don't know what you don't know. We said this before. And, Joni and I don't know everything, but we do have teammates that we have as resources, and we're talking about getting a CPA on the radio with us here in the next couple of weeks.
Right.
That'll be awesome. So tune in, and you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what you don't know, how can you use it to your advantage? And I think that's one of the biggest things you can think about.
Absolutely. And another thing that a lot of people do too is, I know a lot of people get really excited because in April they're going to get a big check from the government.
Yes.
And it's like fingernails on a chalkboard for me.
Yes.
When I hear people say that, I can't wait because I'm going to get this really big check in April.
Why does it feel that way to you?
Why in the world do you want to get a big check in April? Because that meant that January through December the year before, just say it's a $1,200 check, just for easy math. Mm-hmm. That meant I gave the government $100 more than I needed to every month the year before.
And you didn't have use of that money the entire time.
Right. And and they don't give me interest on it. So,
they don't?
No.
Oh, I knew that.
I mean, and even if you don't earn interest in your checking account, it's the opportunity. It's the fact that I'm giving somebody something that they're not due.
Right.
I'm not planning properly.
Right.
And that's a big hole in my bucket.
It really is. And you bring up a great analogy with the $100 a month. Imagine if you just had $100. Now take that to a whole nother level. If you're one of those folks who get $3,000, and I know people that get $3,000 or $4,000 back at the end of the year, I'm going, man, you could have a lot of fun with that money throughout the year. Why are you loaning it to the government for free? They don't give you a loan for free.
You could have been saving it to put it down on a new car so that you're not financing as much. You could be paying more down on your mortgage to reduce your debt. If you're living in debt with credit cards, you could be paying off credit cards much faster.
And we have some tools. That's a great example, Joni. We have some tools that we can walk you through very quickly about the opportunity cost of you giving the money, letting the government use it, and not paying off the credit card debt or the obligations that you have. It's huge.
It is, because the debt that you're paying for, they're charging you interest, and it's in double digits.
Right.
So you're paying back something that you're not getting an interest on, and it just doesn't make sense.
Right. And we love uncovering these opportunities that people have that they're unaware of, or maybe they are aware of them, but they never realize that they're applicable to them.
Right.
And that's one of our huge passions.
And just think about how much better you'll sleep tonight if you spend a couple of minutes with us talking to us about a couple of things. If we can just, turn over a couple of rocks, and maybe we'll find a couple of ideas. And, even if it's only one idea could really make a change in somebody's life.
It doesn't cost you a thing to take a look.
And we like to make changes, positive changes in people's lives. And it's very rewarding for us.
Yes, it is.
Very rewarding for us, because that's exactly why we do what we do.
Absolutely. Love making an impact.
Yes, we do.
Well, we've had fun today, haven't we?
I've had fun, even though the topic wasn't so much fun, but it turned out to be okay.
Yeah. If we can make taxes fun, you should see how much fun we have in the office. Got to come sit down with us.
Yes, thank you for sharing your time with us today. We hope that you learned something. If you missed any portion, go to Journeys with Joni, that's JONI.com, where you can find a replay of all of our shows, our workshop dates, send us an email, and read our quarterly updates. Journeys with Joni will be back next week. Until then, thanks for listening.
This program is for informational and educational purposes only. This program is not a solicitation or recommendation for any investment or security. Investments or securities mentioned in this show may or may not be owned by NEPSIS Advisor Services. NEPSIS Advisor Services is an SEC-registered investment advisor.